you're constantly like in that mode. And then I wake up some mornings like I'm paralyzed because it's like, I can't figure out how to get from this place to this place today. And I really don't want to have to figure it out either. I don't want to have to like deal with these buses or these trains or dealing with these crowds of people going in and out of these places. Like, I'm so tired of standing out all the time. Once again, being a tall white person in a lot of these countries, you stand out. And most people are very welcoming, but some people like don't want you there. Like, you get shoulder checked and you get doors kind of slammed in your face and you get overcharged for things a lot of times. And you just get tired of always trying not to be a bad tourist or person. Like, you always want to try to fit in, and sometimes I'm just like, I can't take it today. I just can't. I need to like give myself this time. And then sometimes you're just like, tough shit, get up and do it. You only have 3 nights here. Like, you got to go do it. And then after about an hour of being out in the open, you're like, okay, that's right. Now I'm back in the flow. I'm part of the pulse. Everything's fine.
Welcome to episode 11 of the Wake and Wander podcast. My guest today is Joe Flynn. This episode was recorded in Palisade, Colorado. Heard a little bit of good travel stuff there in the intro. My guest today has been traveling around the world for 16 months, a quest that many of us dream of doing, of selling our homes, leaving our jobs, going out and exploring the world with no end in sight. And that's what Joe's been doing, and having known him for a long time, I couldn't wait to have him on the show. His 16-month journey took him to close to 40 countries, basically around the world, with the exception of South America. He stopped back by through Colorado, where we first met, for just a week break to get some stuff together, and then he'll be headed back out on the road. Now, how many of us dream about going on an around-the-world trip, the reality of it is often very much different than what we picture. Heard some of that in the intro. Joe's talking about some days are harder than others. My goal today is to talk to Joe about his trip, not only to inspire us with some stories from Africa and Europe and Asia, but also to get a little bit of advice about how he went about this on a day-to-day basis, what his lifestyle was like, what emotions he went through in order to do this. One of the stories that we talk about that sticks out to me most is Joe's telling about how he was in Japan for 30 days and only had 2 conversations. He only spoke to 2 people for the whole 30 days because of his mindset and what he was going through at the time. So buckle up for a nice 2-hour podcast, talking travel, talking to guests from all over the world. Hope you enjoy episode 11 with world traveler Joe Flynn. Do you remember this picture?
Yep, that's the day I left. You're the last person I saw in the States.
I remember. I think I was getting off a flight from Hawaii.
Yep.
This was January 21st, 2024. So you've been gone 16 months.
16 months.
Dude, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
How's it feel? Wait, why are you back?
I'm back just to kind of take a quick break and also to leave a bunch of crap behind that I don't need anymore because I'm about to go embark on the Camino de Santiago.
The hiking trail?
The hiking trail.
In Spain.
Yeah, so I'll start in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France, and then I'll hike over the Pyrenees, and then I'll hike across the north of Spain.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Why are you doing that?
Why not?
It's what, 90 days?
No, I think most people get it done in around 35 to 40 days. So if you're covering about 20 to 25 kilometers a day, you can get it done in probably about 35 days.
You got all the gear?
I've got everything. So that's what I've been kind of doing the past few months is I started in Japan. So I went and got like a really nice Osprey 36-liter, lightweight backpack because it was really inexpensive in Tokyo, believe it or not.
Really?
Uh-huh.
I would think the shopping there would be expensive.
No, and then now they do like this instant, tax rebate thing. So you spend money and then you go downstairs and give them your receipt and they give you your tax rebate right away.
Because you're not a resident.
Right.
Oh.
And so then basically as I've moved across Southeast Asia, even parts of like when I was in New Zealand, I bought some Tivas for this trip. But I've been buying like all this really lightweight gear. So like lightweight pants and shirts and, buffs and all these things just so I can not have to deal with it here, when I'm trying to take this week off of just kind of recuperation. But also I was like really kind of in fear of the tariffs kicking in and all this stuff being even more expensive. So yeah, I've been carrying all this extra stuff in preparation for the Camino. And so now I'm going to leave everything behind that I've been carrying with me. And I'm going to try to keep my bag weight right around 8 kilograms.
Now what? So because you've been out of America for a year, you're not using pounds anymore? Come on, man. 15 pounds? You're looking at 15
14
to 20?
to 15, yeah.
I remember when you left, you were talking a lot about, in fact, I had you on the Palisade podcast at that time, and you were talking about how you wanted to keep low luggage, but you were leaving during the winter time,
Yep.
so you needed some extra stuff. So how has all that played out for you? Did you end up just doing carry-on the whole time?
I would check one bag and then carry on. And then once I finally made it to Bologna, I ended up sending, like a 30-pound bag back of coats and sweaters and stuff that I was no longer needing, plus a few like additional gifts I picked up along the way. So that brought it down to 2 bags because initially I was carrying 3 bags. I don't know if you remember seeing me in the airport, but I had the backpack, I had like the check bag, and then I also had like one additional kind of like luggage, like small, like shoulder sling.
I think I remember you making a comment at that time about how you felt overloaded.
Oh my God. So much extra stuff. You think that you have to load up and carry all this stuff with you. I mean, I was carrying 3 journals, right?
I was just going to say, what did you think you needed
that
it
couldn't
turned
find.
out you didn't need? So 3 journals. Why were you carrying 3 journals?
Because I thought I'd fill them up.
They don't sell paper anywhere in the world?
Yeah, exactly. What was I carrying? Like I had 3 pairs of shoes. So I had like boots. Then I had sneakers because I wanted to run. And then I forget the other pair of shoes that I had. But, 3 or 4 pairs of pants, like 3 sweaters. It's just like it's like, oh, I'm going to start off in Europe in the winter and I want to have enough clothes, not only to stay warm, but also to look good.
You want to have outfits.
I want to have outfits. And I was like, this is the dumbest thing ever. I'm a dude. I can wear like a black sweater and a pair of jeans and I look fine.
And you're traveling so much that no one will know.
Exactly.
Who cares? The shoes are my problem too because you have big feet as well. If you want to bring hiking boots and then you want to have a workout shoe, and then you might need something to go out to dinner or whatever, especially if you have professional appointments. That always takes up the most of my luggage. It's so hard to navigate through.
Well, it's funny. I was in Munich and I had one pair of shoes that were just horrible. I think they were like the zero drop shoes, and they were falling apart and they were becoming so bad. So I found like this shoe store in Munich that sold nothing but like zero drop and like barefoot shoes. So I've been carrying this pair of like these Merrell barefoot shoes around with me now for like a year, and I've worn them like 3 times.
Is it always like, oh, I'm going to wear them in the next destination?
Yeah, they look really good. I mean, but
they have the Vibram?
Yeah, the Vibram bottoms, but like they're made by Merrell.
But they have the toe separators.
No.
No.
They almost look like water shoes because like they're kind of like they have like holes all over them, but you only see that up close. Otherwise, from a distance, they're pretty sharp. I've worn them out to like nicer dinners and stuff, and people are like, "Ooh, I really like your shoes." And they're super lightweight, and you can fold them up, and you can kind of tuck them away. So I've been carrying them for so long, I forget that I have them half the time. So I got here yesterday and unpacked stuff, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that I had this extra pair of shoes."
You got to leave them behind at this point if you haven't worn them. Come on. Yeah, what else was in your bag, do you think, that you didn't need to do? Like just overdoing it on clothes,
Just
obviously.
overdoing it on clothes. I didn't need that many pants. I didn't need that many sweaters. I think I had 2 different types of jackets. So I had like a low-key, like the really lightweight, multi-purpose jacket. But then I also had like a longer like overcoat that I had bought in Spain a few years ago. And I thought it'd be really fashionable to have that. And of course, like the winter was barely even that cold when I got there. So half the clothes that I had, I never even wore. And then once again, it was getting so hot in Italy at that point. I was like, I am completely over this. I need to find the closest, post office that I can and just mail this back. So yeah, I think it was like right around 35 pounds of stuff I was carrying around. How in the world like, does it add up so quickly? 35 pounds, you know?
And as you wear things, they get heavier.
Yeah.
Because dirty clothes weigh heavier than clean
Exactly.
clothes.
Exactly. So what I've realized now is like I just buy stuff as I go, and when I'm done wearing it, I just leave it in the hotel behind. I'm like, you know, it was a $5 shirt. I really liked it, but you know, I don't need it anymore.
Yeah, I've done like find the local thrift shop, buy
Yeah.
a $5 shirt, wear it a couple days, and then oops, I left it in the drawer, or just give it to someone or
Yeah.
whatever.
It's funny because I've made these like kind of, you know, spontaneous purchases. When I was in Morocco, I ended up buying myself a jabella. So it's like that long kind of bath, like the long robe that the men wear. I'm never going to wear that thing. But I was like, how cool would it be to have a jabella when I get back to the States to walk around like maybe Palisade with a jabella on, you know? I'll never wear it. And then when I was in Africa, I bought one of these like really decorative kind of like tribal shirts. Like, I will never, ever wear this.
Well, you can give them as a gift,
Yeah, exactly.
or like frame it, hang it on the wall if you decide to settle down again or something. All right, but let's jump back. It says in Palisade, you're well known. Before you went on this trip, you came on the Palisade podcast.
Yep.
You've been gone 16 months. Newsflash, I started a new podcast since then, the Wake and Wander podcast. So I think we're going to simulcast this on them or whatever we figure out. But all that to say, new audience who doesn't know who the hell you are. And let's just retrace what you've done. About 16 months ago, you sold everything. You decided to go on this round-the-world trip. Flash us back to that time of what was going on with you and how you came up with this idea to go around the world.
Well, the idea to go around the world has always been kind of like inside of me. Like, I've always wanted to do it. Like, my grandmother would always call me like her wanderlust grandson, because no matter what everybody else in my family was talking about doing, you know, like, oh, I want to be this when I grow up. I want to be that when I grow up. I was like, I want to travel the world. So it's always kind of been there. And then it's always been an issue in relationships also, because, you know, the women that I would be with, they're like, oh, we want to settle down and like create this. And I would begrudgingly do it. But at the same time, I was like, I'm not happy here. I want to be traveling. So what happened was, you know, I have Periphery Cellars. That was kind of going on. And
Your own wine label.
My own wine label.
You were a winemaker here in Palisade.
Yep. So I was working as the winemaker at Plum Creek. Plum Creek ended up going out of business, and I wasn't retained as one of their winemaking staff because they already had their own staff in place. Then I was hired on at Carboy, and Carboy and I parted ways because basically it was just not the right fit. And I was kind of here just in Palisade, now just kind of wondering what I wanted to do with myself, kind of living life on repeat over and over again, just finding myself wandering and just to take up time each day.
Wandering, but not in a good way.
Wandering, not in a good way. Yeah, finding myself in trouble more often than not. I ended up putting my 16-year-old dog down because of age and arthritis. And then within, 6 months of that, I'm putting my other dog down because of cancer. So now here I am, basically an empty nester with real no direction. And I'd been in Palisade for, 10 years, basically. And I was like, what's the next step? So I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to give in to chance and trust the universe. I'm going to sell everything off. And, I believe that, the universe rewards those that are brave and that are willing to take a chance. So it's funny, like as soon as I put my house out there for sale, it was sold within a week, cash offer. Everything else just kind of fell into place. Like things I needed to sell, people would respond immediately on Facebook Marketplace and they would actually show up and pay the full price of what I was asking. It's just, everything kind of just seemed to work in order for me. Like I was being rewarded for wanting to take this chance.
It's what I love about your story is that I've known other people that have left their lives or uprooted their lives to travel around the world, but I don't know anyone that's done a full send like you have. Most people go to travel around the world, but they didn't sell their house.
All right.
They didn't quit their career entirely. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to go do this as a sabbatical, and then I'm going to come back to my life. You weren't saying, I'm going to travel for 1 year and come back. It was just open-ended,
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
So, man, that must have been pretty stressful.
It was stressful, but at the same time, like not having any sort of ownership of any person, place, or thing, or those of me, is like the most, I think, invigorating feeling ever.
That does sound nice.
It's just like the most liberating feeling ever to just be able to say, I can come and go wherever I want, whenever I want, and however I want. And no one can tell me yes or no. The only limitation is me. So it's, yeah. And initially I was supposed to end the trip around January in Japan. And then at that point, just life presented itself and was like, you can keep going. And I was like, okay, let's keep going. And so being in Asia, it's like it'd be foolish not to just kind of explore more of that area when you're there, because flights are cheap, they're short, so it's like, why not?
Yeah, AirAsia.
Yeah.
Such a great airline, right? Just bounce around between countries, less than 100 guys.
Yeah.
Is there another one? Vietjet?
Vietjet, AirAsia. So it's like the Ryanair of Asia,
Yeah. Well, when you showed up at my door today, I was happy to see. I thought one of two things might happen: either that you were going to look like deathly ill from being on the road for 16 months, or that you were maybe having gained 50 pounds. But you look pretty much the same as what I remember when you left. You have more tattoos now, which we can get into. But in our conversations leading up to you getting home, I was asking you to talk about all the countries that you visited. And you were very kind. You wrote them all out for me. And at the end, you said, seeing it written out doesn't seem that impressive. Okay? So I'm going to read them aloud and see if you'll find this more impressive. In the last 16 months, France, Switzerland, Italy, Slovenia, Germany, Poland, Denmark, Portugal, Spain, Tunisia, Morocco, Ireland, Senegal, South Africa, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, Kenya, Turkey, Greece, Georgia, India, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Japan, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, New Zealand, Australia, Philippines, South Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan.
Yeah.
Does that sound a little more impressive now to you? Because that sounds pretty impressive to me. Wow. How do you feel when you hear that? You've just done all that. It must seem like a dream.
So the most rewarding feeling I had is just 2 days ago. Not the most rewarding, but one of those moments where you just kind of sit back and it brings tears to your eyes almost, because the thing that it's the constant that you find around the world is always the sun. So you see sunrises in different parts of the world, you see sunsets, and you're just like, oh man, here I am, watching this sunset over this ocean or this sea or over this mountain. And then I was landing in Denver and I was getting into the cab, and they had some storms that rolled through that day and they were just clearing up. And then as I was making my way to my hotel that night, the sun was just peering through these clouds. And I was like, there it is again. I'm like, oh my God, it's always with me. And I'm and here I am back in my home state, essentially seeing the sun. And it's reminding me hey, I'm still here. Be impressed with yourself, because now you're seeing me here. Whereas you've seen me everywhere else around the world, but now it's a hyper local kind of feeling to be here with you, And I'm like, okay, yeah, impressed. Holy crap.
I love that. The sun and the sunset, the sunrise, sunset, the sun as the constant. I never thought about that way. That's really, really cool. How do you feel now, man? Your identity must be totally influxed or changed. I know, as a travel journalist, when I come back for a trip, the first thing when I see people, all they want to do is ask me about my trip, which is great. But you were just gone for so long. It must be kind of overwhelming to have to try and how was your trip? I mean, where do you even begin? That's such a hard question to answer.
The biggest thing people always ask, what's your favorite place? I'm I can't give you my favorite place, because every place has something really special and unique about it that makes me enjoy it. I have least favorite places, but you still find the joy in that. How am I feeling? How was the trip? It's an existence, and, the stuff I've experienced and felt and learned, from absolute awe and just giddiness and joy to the feeling of just complete isolation and sadness and despair. I mean, it seems daily I go through the gauntlet of feelings. There's mornings where I wake up and I'm literally the first 15 minutes of the morning, I'm where am I? Literally, where am I? And I have to go back a few days to think, okay, I was there. Oh, okay, now I'm in this city. Okay, yeah. yeah, I don't know. It's like, how am I? I don't know. I mean, I'm still like in it, you know?
Well, this you're going back,
I'm
so
going
too
back.
this it's not even over.
It's not even over.
All right. Well, let's dive into the trip a little bit. First, just quick rant. I think you're so smart not to the way you answer that question about not having a favorite. It's probably my least favorite question as well to be asked. What's your favorite place you've ever been? This whole new media of listing things, top 5 places you got to visit,
Yeah.
top 5 meals in Honolulu, whatever. It's such a mental disease. It forces you to rank and compare your own experiences against each other. Why would you compare a week in Hawaii to a week in France?
Right.
Like, it's just, which one was better? They were so different.
Yep.
It makes no sense to do it. But having that mentality of it's all different.
It is.
It's all a different experience.
And some of the things you think would be like the best experiences, like, oh, going to like a really nice restaurant and spending all this money and getting dressed up, is actually probably like one of the worst experiences I had compared to sitting on a curb in the middle of somewhere in Southeast Asia or in Africa and, eating with my hands, like while sitting on the ground and having kids around me, like pick at me and laugh, because I'm the big bald white dude that's sitting in their village right now eating the 2 pieces of fish that they gave me that somebody else sacrificed a meal to give to me to make me feel welcome,
It's incredible, man.
It is.
All right, so you started off, let's see, France, Switzerland, Italy, Slovenia, Germany, Poland, Denmark. So it sounds like a lot of time in Europe to start.
The first 3 months.
From looking at your social media, it seemed like that was a very wine-focused component. Take us back to when you arrived in France, your first or second day on the road. How did you feel?
I'd been in, France numerous times, but it was a completely different mindset this time. Like when I arrived, I got into Paris like around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning and jumped right on the RER from the airport because I knew how to get into the city on the RER, like the Blue Line. Got off on my, metro stop, walked up. I'm like, oh, I forgot which arrondissement I was in, but walk up, I find like a little bistro, sit down, order a coffee. Can't check in for like an hour or 2. So I'm just sitting there and it's kind of like low clouds. It's misty. It's rainy. I'm like, oh, I love it like this. It's nice and cool. And usually it's like you hit the ground running, right? I was just the opposite. I was like, I have nothing but time. I don't need to like try to cross all these things off today because once again, I'd been to Paris a bunch of times. I'd already seen all the big things and even the small things. But I was like, I'm going to be doing this for so long. I'm not here to like sightsee. I'm here to like live and, like be a traveler, like an explorer, So yeah, the first day I actually got checked in, closed the curtains, turned on some French talk television, fell asleep and napped like pretty much the whole day as the rain kind of fell down. I woke up, went downstairs, had like a little glass of wine, ate like a sandwich, went back upstairs, passed out. That evening I woke up and kind of wandered around, went over by the Notre Dame when it was still under construction to kind of see what was going on. There's a guy out there playing accordion, families kind of eating ice cream. And I'm like, yeah, I'm in it. Like, I'm not like, oh God, where's my tour book that I have to walk, 2 miles over there to go see this light show tonight or make it to this restaurant because I have to like mark it off the list. It's like, no, everything was just at a completely different pace. It was in no rush to be anywhere anytime for anything.
That resonates so much with me because I travel a lot, but on always shorter trips.
Yeah.
Very packed, very busy. Just as you say, do an overnight flight to Europe, arrive at 8 a.m., you're tired, too bad, get going.
Yep.
That must be so nice. Had you ever traveled like that before where you just had that luxury of being like, I don't need to rush?
No, yeah. It's like, once again, like you're like living it now. Like you're not just, here for a short time. It's like I'm calling the shots, It's like I come and go as I please now.
How much of your itinerary did you have set up going forward? Did you have places to be, quote unquote?
I didn't have places to be. I mean, I guess I had cities to be in at a certain time just because I was trying to like follow a direction because I knew like I only have 90 days in the Schengen area and there was places I really wanted to kind of see and experience before those 90 days ran out. And so I think being in Europe is just generally always exhausting, especially if you're trying to like check things off the box and see stuff. And, with moving around on trains all the time and then some short distance flights, Europe was definitely more of a sprint than the rest of the trip. But I think Europe lends itself to be that way because everything's so easy to get to. Like you can cover 3 countries in a few hours on a train, whereas, it took me 8 hours to get from Denver to here yesterday.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, why'd you take the train back? All right, conversation for another time. So you started slow. Talk to me about your pacing on the road. The longest I've ever been gone from home was 2 months consecutively. And by the end of it, I needed like a hibernation nap. So I think we talked about this before you left. Your pacing of your body and your energy was going to be really important. Did you find that ebbed and flowed throughout the trip? Did you have a really strong strategy that you were trying to keep keep yourself healthy and rested? I know you're really into wine, the drinking, the eating. How did you manage all that in the beginning, and did it change as you went through?
It definitely changed. I was really interested like in the wine and the eating part when I was going through Europe. So I was heavily focused on that. And so a lot of my days would be going to different wineries, having, tastings lined up with the winemakers or with owners. And I would do like, sometimes 3 or 4 tastings in a day. And I'd be taking trains from, this village to this village and then taking this cab to here. And you'd start like at 9 o'clock in the morning and you get back to your hotel like at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. But the thing is, I allowed myself to like, when I had the days and the time to like not rush in the morning. So I always try to be somewhat mindful in the morning. I'll get up and I try to do like some light stretching. I'll do some meditation every morning. And then, like I was telling you earlier, I try to do like these little mind kind of games. Like the Elevate app, I'll get on that every day and do like some math problems and some crosswords and some just little things to kind of keep me occupied. The one thing I've allowed myself not to do is to like get on the news and read that every day because just, it just brings a sort of stress into my life I don't really want to deal with while experiencing all this stuff. The only time I will check the news though is before going into a new country to see if we've pissed anybody off, in the past few days before I arrive to like know where I should be going or not be going. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, once I got out of Europe, things just kind of changed because I went from Europe into North Africa, and that doesn't really lend itself to a whole big wine culture, much less a drinking culture. And then after that, Senegal, and then down to South Africa to work. I did a 50-day overland journey from South Africa up to Kenya, and that was really cool because you're moving almost every day, and there's days where you're driving for 10, 12 hours, and it doesn't really lend itself to a whole lot of drinking.
Yeah, well, let's jump into that because that was I was most interested in that part of your journey because Africa's incredible. I've known a lot of people that have either worked as a guide for the overland experiences or have done it, and they say it's just so wild, just like you're describing, because of the infrastructure is often terrible. You're in the middle of nowhere for a lot of it, jumping countries every couple of days.
Yep.
Tell us about that. How was that? You went by yourself?
No, I actually signed on to a tour group with that. Logistically, it would seem like a nightmare trying to do that by myself, moving from place to place. With the land crossings, the visas, everything was just like I'd be spending more time trying to figure that out than actually exploring. So I went with Intrepid. It started in Cape Town, and they arranged everything. So they provided the tents, sleeping bags.
You're camping every night.
We were camping. Some places, as you moved more into like East Africa, you had the option to upgrade. And so like you can get like a pretty inexpensive, not so great hotel room, but at least it was like a bed off the ground. It had running water, stuff like that. But yeah, essentially you set up your tent every night, and we had a chef, a mechanic, and a guide, and we had to help out with like the preparation and the cleaning. But they would provide 3 meals a day for us. They would get us up in the morning, oftentimes 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning we get on the road, and then we don't pull into a camp until 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night.
What's the appeal of the journey if you're just driving all day? So like what are you guys looking for wildlife at times?
Well, we ended up going, into like numerous national parks. I think we did probably, 9 game drives, safaris, everywhere from, Chobe to, we did the Serengeti and Ngorongoro, South Laguano. What's the big one? Chobe. Yeah, I said Chobe. What's the big one in Namibia? I forgot. But it's crazy because it was all so, it just built, right? So you get to your first safari and you're like, man, I can't wait to see like an elephant. And then you see like herds of elephants. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to see a giraffe. And you see just giraffes everywhere. So the next day you get up and you go on these game drives. You're like, okay, well.
It's another giraffe.
Yeah, like, no, look, now there's like 3,000 zebras like doing this migration or something. You're like, wow, that's really cool. Like, I want to see this next. So we got so fortunate as we moved through Africa, we finally get to the Serengeti and we start seeing lions everywhere. And then finally we get to see a kill. So there was this pride of lions that had taken down a buffalo. They're destroying this thing. Another pride of lions comes in. Now we have 2 different prides like fighting over this fresh kill. I mean, it was insane. And like I'm watching all of this basically from a safari vehicle where these lions are within like 6 feet in front of me, just tearing each other apart, trying to get to like this kill.
Incredible.
It's insane. And like just the energy and the force, like when they roar and they fight, like the whole earth shakes, like the first time I ever heard a lion, we went and did a night drive and we're driving around and like, are we going to see a lion? Are we going to see a lion? And finally this guy brings us in and he puts the white light on and it's like it was told to like cue for us. As soon as he turned the white light on, this lion came down this hill. And there was this other, like, this lioness, and she, like, grunted, like, and it's like, oh, my God, what was that? And then he just kind of, like, stretched and then stood up and yawned and roared. And it's like, if I had hair in my head, I feel like I'd be blown back because this lion's roar was so intense and so forceful. It was, like, unlike anything I've ever heard or even felt from an animal before. So to finally get to the Serengeti and see these things doing what they do best was just so, incredible. I can't even describe it, like you have to see it for yourself.
It's quite funny too because we know all these animals from Lion King and they're so cartoony and soft in these movies. And then, when you get into nature and you feel that power, it's like, oh, okay. Wow. Isn't it insane, the whole safari car relationship with the animals?
Mm-hmm.
They don't recognize it as a human,
right?
So they're not going to attack it. It just, they don't know what it is. But you're literally 6 feet from these beasts. They could just, if you took one step out of the car, they would just kill you immediately.
Yeah. We were in, it was funny because I was at the point, we were like spending, I think, like 4 nights in the Serengeti and we had a camp set up. And we had done like a morning drive and then we had a bunch of downtime. And so I'm just kind of wandering around the camp. And I go get my water bottle, and one of the guides is like, hey, man, what are you doing? I was like, I'm going to go take a walk. He's like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. And so I just kind of start walking, and he runs up, and he's like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going to go take a walk. He's like, the hell you are? You are not leaving from this point to this point. We are in the Serengeti. Like, there are animals everywhere around us. And I was like, I never really even thought about that. And, later that night, a buffalo like runs right by our camp with 3 lions chasing it. That next morning we wake up, there's 2 hippos that are fighting, both bloodied. And this is within like 100 yards of our camp.
Oh, it's wild nature, mate.
And I'm like...
because we're so desensitized because we go out hiking here and we have bears and they're scary or whatever, but they're not really going to attack you. And same when I first went to Africa, I'm like, oh, I can walk because, bears, we do it in America. It's like, no, these lions will literally they're not going to run away if they hear you. No. They're going to come get you.
And they're probably right there in the grass and you don't even see them.
Totally.
It's, that night, it was funny because we were just kind of in camp. And then one guy just, nonchalantly, he's like, hey, man, be careful. There's an elephant in camp. We're like, what? And there's this giant bull, male walking through our camp. And we're all just like, what in the world? And, this thing is for being so massive, it sees all the tents. It's walking through tents and it's like completely avoiding everything.
You're in your tent.
Well, we had our tent set up, like we were still awake, but this thing's walking through our camp.
Okay, good night.
And so all the guides are coming out with their pots and pans and like banging them. And he like just stops and turns around. He's like looking at everybody like, are you going to stop banging these pots and pans because you're pissing me off? But these guys deal with these on a daily basis, but we're just sitting here like, oh my God, like what is happening right here? There's this massive beast that's looking at me and like, should I run or should I be in awe and sit here?
Only
and watch
food
it?
runs in the bush.
That's right.
These guides must have been really cool.
They were all really cool. I mean,
have gone through it,
leading
these trips all the time.
Yeah. It's funny because these guys they turn around. So they'll do 50 days going up from Cape Town to Nairobi, and they'll take like 3 days off, and then they'll go back down. And they'll do that like 2 or 3 times each way, and then they'll take like 2 weeks off and then start all over again.
Wow.
And then so I had people that started with me in Cape Town and only went 22 days to Victoria Falls. I continued on through and then went up to Tanzania. And then some people like got off in Zanzibar. And then I continued on to Nairobi. I got off there. Some people continued all the way up to like Rwanda and Uganda. And so I go do all that like Masai Mara and be with the gorillas. And they went like 64 to 70 days. So for me, after 50 days, I was like, I've had enough.
Did you get along with people you were with?
The first group, we all got along really, really well, even for the few oddballs that people found just kind of strange or not that approachable. It was still a really nice crew. When we switched people out and in Victoria Falls, everything changed. Like we had this drama-ridden group come in that had all these issues with the group prior to us, and they brought it into who was left from us. And then just as we moved all the way up, it just got really bad. Talk about like a human experiment, spending that much time with people that you've never met, stuck on a bus every day, camping with them, being with them 24/7. It's like you learn a lot about yourself and people pretty quickly.
What were you doing during the drive, like the 8-hour drives?
Trying to keep yourself occupied. I mean, it's like this big overland vehicle, so you have kind of like reclining seats, but there's no AC and like these big windows and
must have been hot.
It was really hot. And then, but you get to certain points where like we have to roll everything up because the tsetse flies here. So,
those things hurt, man.
Yeah.
Those things are intense.
So you just try to keep yourself occupied. I mean, like Uno and charades, and we'd create like trivia games for each other and, lots of podcasts and my Spotify playlist. I'm so sick and tired of it now.
I bet.
I've heard every single song so many times. It's like,
can I get some new music? That's wild. And of course, writing in your 3 journals, I'm sure. Did you end up writing a lot?
No, not at all. I sent all 3 journals back.
You mailed them back?
Yeah.
What's up? What are these journals plated with gold, or what's going on?
Well, one was a gift. No, 2 were gifts from people. So I thought like it'd be nice to hold on to those. What I ended up doing is just going into like my iPhone notes and just like jotting down bullet points. Because if I can like remember what, if like, this day with this, like I can think about the whole story and just kind of expand on that from there. But yeah, like the whole thing of just writing every day. I mean, I don't have that in me, at least not yet. Like, and you and I talked about this in the past, like give yourself like 15 minutes a day, and you gave me some good advice. Like do it first thing in the morning when you're fresh, or go out, have a few drinks, come back in the evening and let it all rip from there. Maybe I need to start practicing that.
How much did your desire to share your trip change as you went out? Because I'm sure when you were leaving, myself included, it's like, all right, post on social media so we see what you're up to, and you will get into some of them. Some of your posts, you have really cool stuff written about the things you had done and how you had felt. Did that change as you go? Like, did you feel this desire to stay connected to back home and people and share what you were doing, or did you struggle with that?
I think the biggest thing with my social media is like it's for me to remember. I mean, I have 320 something followers, so it's not that big. And my, response from people, like I don't have hundreds of likes with my posts. Like I'm lucky if I get 12 likes.
How does that make you feel?
It doesn't, I don't care. Cause like, once again, like it's for me to go back and like, I've done it a few times now where I scroll all the way back to like certain things and like I'm reading, I'm like, I just kind of see how it's progressed and how the stuff I've written about has changed. And like the music, if I put like a song to a post or something, how it's different now. And, yeah, it means something to me. And that's what it really matters. Yeah, I don't care what people, what they think about it or how they respond to it. Because I do have people like send me DMs like, we are really, so just enthralled by what you're doing, and we look forward every day to seeing what you have to write or what you're going to share with us this week. And so stuff like that makes me feel really good because like I know there actually are people out there paying attention. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's for my memory.
So in total, you spent 4 months in Africa, and this one particular trip was 49 days.
Yep.
7,800 miles.
Yep.
Total.
Yeah.
Through 8 countries. Quote, "My head and heart are still reeling from the things I experienced. I'm hoping they eventually work symbiotically to allow me to fully grasp what I have truly seen, smelled, tasted, and felt. The beauty of Africa lies with its brutality." Love that. "Things aren't fluffy or fair here. Nothing is easy, and you have to earn every inch and minute to survive. Days were beyond long, roads were horrible, and each day we were pushed to our limits. If you started off your day with a bad attitude, it was guaranteed to become worse as the day pushed forward into the night, exposing your weakness. Every emotion was put on display in order to express its raw core. I felt anger, hatred, loneliness, sadness, and disgust. But these feelings were wiped away by the joy, inspiration, awe, bliss, warmth, and enlightenment that filled me at my darkest moments." How do you feel about that one?
Yeah. Yeah, I think leaving a place like Africa, I mean, it's like one of those once in a lifetime things, experiencing it for the first time and seeing all of that for the first time. Like if I ever go back to Africa again, will I have the same feelings? I don't know. Probably not, because it was just so raw and real and massive and just, I mean, it didn't ask you for permission and it didn't ask you how you were feeling. It was like, be here, show up. If not, like, this is going to eat you up. So
I think that's interesting you raise. I was talking to a friend about that who was going to Asia for the first time, and they were asking me for advice about where they were going. And I said, well, the important thing to remember is, like a first kiss, you only get one first Asia.
That's right.
And they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then after they came back, they said, I totally get it now.
Yeah.
Just because when you go to some place like Africa or Asia that is completely different from North America, you only get to experience those initial feelings once. And now once you get that ground coat, that first coat of paint on you, you've seen it. When you go back again, you're just not going to, it's just, when you kiss someone for the second time, it's not the same.
Yep.
It's really true. It's like an awesome analogy. And I feel like people, when they travel, should really cherish that and think of that. When you go someplace for the first time, that's can be a special moment.
That's how India was for me also. Like I remember flying in, coming in like over, I don't know where we were, like maybe Afghanistan.
Can you even remember where you were? It's like got to be so disorienting. Because even day to day, I'm like, where was I last week or this or that? And you're, 30-some countries in the last year. It's crazy.
Well, like there's this, like the flight in, like the sun was rising over the mountains and like it was just, so incredible to see like these beautiful colors and just all the shapes and the patterns coming just from the earth, and then finally landing in Delhi and just seeing how this, like the pollution was already in the air as you kind of come closer to the ground. So I get into the airport and it's pretty calm inside. And it's, a clean, modern airport. And as soon as I walk outside, I mean, the heat hits you, the sounds hit you, the smells hit you. And it's just one of the most overwhelming things that you can ever experience in your life. And then being tired as well, it just makes it even that much worse. So there's people everywhere. Everybody likes to talk with their horn. That's all you hear is horns, horns, horns. So I get into my cab and we're going through Delhi traffic. And that is just something that you have to experience at least once in your life is traffic in India. I mean, It is one of the most unnatural things to experience. So I get to my hotel room once again. Usually it's like I need to take a shower and hit the ground running. I'm like, no, I'm gonna sit right here and I'm gonna take a shower and I'm gonna pass out. So I closed the curtains, fell asleep for a few hours, got up, and then made my way out. And once again, I think India, it's two ways to think about it. Like you can hate it, and it's gonna tear you up. You're gonna have the worst time ever. You're gonna hate everyone and everything about that country, or just open yourself up, and it becomes one of the most incredible, beautiful experiences you can ever have in your life, because the people, the color, the food, the sounds, the smells, the tastes, everything is just amplified, and it's more intense than you can ever imagine. It's like, tripping for the first time in your life, but just culturally on what this country has to offer. It's incredible.
How did you deal with that? What you said resonated with me about waking up in a pissed off mood. I was in Belize last week, and I woke up and just was on the wrong side of the bed for whatever reason. And everything we did that day, I was skeptical of.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not that cool. That's not that good. Whatever. And it was great. But I had to stop myself halfway through. I'm like, okay, Will, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
How did you manage that? Because you're going to wake up some days and just kind of be over it.
Yeah. And I try to wake up every day and just realize how lucky I am, And sometimes you obviously are like, okay, well, I only have so much luck. Like today I just want to be angry.
Which is valid.
Yeah. So there are some days where I just get really quiet and I try not to be so judgy. And if I find what I've learned now is if I find myself becoming that way, I take a time out and I go back to my room and I just I get quiet and I lay there and I do what I have to do until I get adjusted. And then it might actually turn into me not leaving the room for the rest of the day because I'm so tired and I'm just so exhausted of always going and seeing and living. It's like I just need a day to do nothing and to watch Netflix or
just like you would at home.
Exactly.
Where you take a rest day.
And that's the thing. It's like when you're traveling this long, you have to realize you're not a tourist anymore. You're trying to live it. And so you have to live a normal life. So you need to exercise and you need to eat the right foods and you need to have your personal time. So go get a massage or pull your book out and read for a whole day and don't take a shower and don't leave your room. And I get to the point sometimes where I'm in a city and I'm learning I have to learn how to say hello and goodbye and thank you and where's this. And so you're constantly studying before you arrive to a place so you can at least be somewhat, accustomed and building yourself into the society that you're going to be part of for the next 5 days to 2 weeks or a month. And you're constantly in that mode. And then I wake up some mornings I'm paralyzed because I was I can't figure out how to get from this place to this place today. And I really don't want to have to figure it out either. I don't want to have to deal with these buses or these trains or dealing with these crowds of people going in and out of these places. I'm so tired of standing out all the time. Once again, being a tall white person in a lot of these countries, you stand out. And most people are very welcoming, but some people don't want you there. You get shoulder checked and you get doors kind of slammed in your face and you get overcharged for things a lot of times. And you just get tired of always trying not to be a bad tourist or person. You always want to try to fit in, and sometimes I'm just I can't take it today. I just can't. I need to give myself this time. And then sometimes you're just tough shit, get up and do it. You only have 3 nights here. You got to go do it. And then after about an hour of being out in the open, you're okay, that's right. Now I'm back in the flow. I'm part of the pulse. Everything's fine.
Yeah, it's kind of contradictory because you're trying to live there, quote unquote, when you talk about this broader trip, 16 months, but individually in each country, it feels like a race against time.
Yeah.
Because you're open-ended, you can extend if you want, blah, blah, but you're trying to move it along. So you may have 4 days.
Right.
And it's day 3 and you're like, man, I feel like I just need a day to do nothing.
Yep.
But then you battle yourself. Well, it's only 1 more day here and da-da-da-da. So I think that's has such a travel maturity.
Yeah.
To say, look, yeah, I'll miss this 1 day here, but my next week is going to be so much better if I just catch up on sleep tonight, get a workout in, get some good food in me, chill.
And you have to realize you can't see everything. And so you have to kind of get into the mindset where it's like, well, I can always come back and I can see it. But I'm like, yeah, but I'm here now. And it'd be so much easier to see it now. But then you find yourself oftentimes when you're rushing from place to place or thing to thing, you miss out like on the real true connection of what's happening in that place that you're in. Like, there's been so many times when I've been like rushing to take a train to some place and I end up meeting some random person like at a park or a bar, and we end up having this really cool conversation. And next thing you know, like I'm having dinner with them and their family and their house and their kids. And I was like, this was not on the agenda for today. I was supposed to be at this museum or at this temple or something. And now I'm actually living like a real, like local.
That's the real good stuff.
That's the good stuff,
That's what you're hoping happens.
Yeah.
The museum is like, okay, I'll go there, but hopefully someone pulls me somewhere else along the way.
Right. And like, traveling this long by yourself, you get to a point where you go sometimes days without saying a word to anyone. And you don't even realize it because you're constantly having conversations with yourself. And you become like your own best friend, and you become like you have the best conversations with yourself over and over again. So I'm at dinner all the time, like having these amazing conversations, but it's with me. And then, I used to get kind of bothered by the point where I'd be at dinners and like there'd be like a couple here and like a group of friends there. And now I'm just like, and when that was happening, you felt like everybody was like looking at you and noticing you for being like the solo diner. No one cares, and I've really gotten comfortable with just having these personal conversations. And so when you actually get a chance to meet somebody and spend time with them, you're like, holy, like, wow, this is amazing. But you almost like lose like your interaction skills because you're like, I'm so used to just talking to myself, and now I actually have to like put sentences together and speak to you.
But you would go days without talking to people?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
such a social guy. How would that happen?
Well, Japan was difficult.
Oh, you mean just because it's a language barrier?
Language barrier, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're still saying hi to people.
Oh, yeah.
You're just not
But you're like
connecting deeply with someone.
Yeah, there's like no real conversation. I had 2 conversations in a month with people in Japan. And I loved it because Japan to me was like, I got there, it was like in January, February. It was dark, it was rainy, and Japan's already kind of isolated place as it is, but not really having any sort of Japanese skills, language skills, made it kind of difficult. And so I would go like days without saying anything to anyone. And then I remember I went to like one place like on a Tuesday night, and I walked in. It was like this sushi bar that was recommended to me by like one of the people in my hotels. And there's like 6 people in this whole place, and they're all Japanese, and not one person speaks English. So I sit down, and the guy with his best English is like, what would you like? And I just basically say like omakase. He's like, oh, omakase, okay, like, yeah. And so shows me a sake list, and I was like, of course, the best bottle,
See, I would be like, of course, the cheapest bottle. That's the difference between you and I, Joe.
So he starts making this food, and then this woman next to me, she's like, wow, like that's a nice bottle of sake, like perfect English. I'm like, what? Excuse me? She's like, that's a really nice bottle of sake. I was like, oh, like you speak English? She's like, yeah. Like I'm a designer. Like I actually live in New York City, but I'm here in Tokyo for a few months. So we ended up striking up this conversation, and we ended up like sitting there drinking like numerous bottles of sake and doing like this omakase, which like lasted for like 3 hours, just having the best conversation. And then she's like, okay, well, I got to go. And I was like, just like that, she was here and then gone. And it was like the best feeling ever because I was able to connect to a Japanese person who could give me some insight on what I should be doing in the city and what I should and shouldn't be doing, and in regards to whatever it might be. And it was great. And then I moved into like Hiroshima or something, and then I'm like looking all around. It's like, so I made this little trend for myself. So usually before I'm leaving a country, I try to find a pizza. So every time I leave a country or a city, like if I've been in a city long enough, I'll try to go have a pizza to myself.
Where did that idea come from?
I don't know, but it's like just a little bit of like a Western kind of comfort thing. So, when I was leaving Japan, I was like looking all over this place in Hiroshima for like this pizza joint. And I was like, man, where is it? Where is it? And like Google Maps keeps saying it's right here. Well, I actually end up walking up these stairs, like the 7th floor, and there's like just office doors everywhere. And I'm like, where is this place? And then finally I open it up, and it opens up into this little restaurant, like on the 7th floor in this office building. And it holds like 5 people in this restaurant. And all it is a pizza oven and a small bar and like 2 tables, and that's it. And not a lick of English is spoken there also. So I walk in, the guy's like super happy to see me. And so he gives me the menu, and I'm like, I just kind of point at the pizza. And then this businessman sitting next to me is like, how did you find this place? And I was like, wait, what? Like, you speak English? He's like, yeah. Like, how in the world did you find this place? I was like, I don't know.
The internet.
He's like, we've never seen a Westerner in here ever. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, it's like the hidden gem, like of best pizza in Hiroshima. And I'm like, well, I'm happy I found it. So he and I sat there for like an hour and had a couple beers and talked about stuff. And he's a businessman, and he actually does food sales, for like something like Shamrock or Cisco or whatever, but he does it through Japan. And so he was visiting Japan from, I forgot where he was initially, but yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm here for a while, and I sell to these guys, and it's pretty impressive that you're here. And I was like, man, okay, this is the stuff. And those are the only 2 conversations I had my entire time in Japan.
How long were you there?
Like a month and a half.
What?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God. That's so wild.
Yeah. Maybe like a month.
It's like a long-term meditation or something, like a silent retreat.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm sure you could write a pretty good book about, because when you're traveling, you're meeting people briefly, but you have such strong connections. There's something about being on the road and that openness that everybody demonstrates where you can really connect quickly, but you'll never see them again. You alluded to that when you said that with the sushi bar, and that just like that, she was gone.
Yep.
It's kind of a bizarre feeling.
It is. And it's like, and these are just people like, like just crossing paths, like in a normal, like they're traveling, but for business, The really cool thing is to meet other travelers who are doing what I'm doing. And it's funny because there's a lot of them out there.
A lot of people traveling around the world.
A lot of people they're just going for it,
Sold everything.
And they're like, yeah, like I'll figure it out when it's time to figure it out. And then some people, like have traveled for a year but have gone back to a job. Like it seems like a lot of Australians that I've met, like, they have like these long sabbaticals where
they do. They have like a year off.
Yeah. Like
Europe too.
How nice is that?
Right.
Like, oh, so were you going back to a job? They're like, yeah, I got a house and my dogs are waiting there for me. Like, I just decided to take a year off. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Most people don't full send like you do, right? They're planning to go back to something.
Yeah.
If they don't find something better or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, to me, like, that would just cause like a sense of, anxiety knowing I had to go back to something that was waiting for me. Right now, it's just like this empty canvas that I can just kind of splash and scribble on any way I want to.
That doesn't cause you anxiety?
No.
The unknown of the future?
I feel at peace with that. It's really nice, actually, because like my whole life, I've always had to have a plan. Like I was always like having to be ahead of things, and like even my travel used to be that way. It's like I'm leaving on this day, and then I'm going to be in this city for this many days, and these are the things I want to do and see. And then, now I've just completely just have given up on that. Like the funny thing is, like when I decided to do the Camino, I was like, oh man, I should start planning stuff out. And everybody's like, don't plan. The Camino provides is like, what they say.
That sounds like a Burning Man thing.
I know, exactly. So what I did do though, is like I booked like the first 5 or 6 nights on the Camino, like all the way up to Pamplona. So like I'll hike the first day into Orison and I'll stay there for like the night, and then I booked like the first 5 or 6
Are you
nights.
booking tea houses essentially?
Like albergues and like little hostels and
like
stuff
huts.
Like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And so Pamplona, like I think I'll get there like on my 6th night or 5th night, and I'm staying for 2 nights just to kind of whatever. And then from that point I have nothing else planned or booked.
Why can't you? Can you tent camp, or you're just choosing not to?
No, I don't think they really encourage that, because like basically you're just going from village to village, and they have like I said, albergues, hostels.
It's a hike, and they don't encourage you to camp.
Well, I think it's they have stuff set
Wild
up for you
camping in Europe's insane. It's
Right.
almost impossible. There's really only one place in like all of Europe where you can still wild camp in the UK, and that's being challenged right now. You go to Germany, Austria, Switzerland. You can't just do like we do in Colorado and walk up into the mountains and camp wherever you want.
Yeah.
We're so lucky in the U.S. to have that. So now that you're saying it, maybe it doesn't surprise me that they don't let you camp.
Well, it's like you get to kind of walk with the other pilgrims, and then you stay at these albergues, and the idea is to like get up early and hike 7-8 hours, and then arrive to your place by like 2 or 3, and then clean up, relax, explore the little village or town that you're in, and then have like the pilgrim's meal, which is like
3 beers.
Yeah, well, a 3-course meal, like usually like a soup, salad, and an entree. Share some wine, and then just keep doing that over and over again. And,
all right. Well, I didn't realize they called them pilgrims
Yeah.
still. So what's the history of this? I guess I'm ignorant of it.
Well, it's the St. James Trail, right? So it's like I guess St. James. Like I'm probably gonna get this completely wrong because like I really don't understand the whole spiritual thing of it, except that I guess it was just one of one of the pilgrims that decided to walk across the north of Spain. You end up at the Santiago de Compostela, the giant cathedral, right? And that's where everything kind of wraps up. And you have like the big pilgrim's mass, and then like you get your little form of completion saying that you're a pilgrim. And I know the big thing over the past few years, like I don't know how many years, but people decide to hike the last 100 kilometers of it. So from Sarria into Santiago de Compostela. And if you hike that last 100 kilometers, you get like your pilgrim stamp or your passport. Once again, I'm probably getting this all completely wrong.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah.
The Camino de Santiago, Way of St. James.
Yeah.
You got that part right.
Yeah.
Pilgrimage route has a rich history dating back to the 9th century with the legend of St. James's discovery of his remains in Gallica. The Camino became a major Christian pilgrimage route in the Middle Ages, attracting pilgrims from across Europe who sought to visit the tomb of the apostle. So it was all just it was a variety of routes that converged to go visit where this dude was buried, I guess.
Yeah, and there's routes all around the world, but especially all around Europe as well. So you have like the Del Norte and the Primitivo and the Portuguese and the English, and there's so many different ways. And I think ultimately you're supposed to end up at the cathedral there, and I think that's why like the oyster shell essentially is like the shape of it, because all those lines lead to the point.
All routes lead there.
All roads, yeah.
Interesting.
So,
and this is interesting. Okay, this was the 9th century. So the 800s. Most people were farmers working the land to grow crops and raise livestock. Life was centered around villages. I mean, just to kind of think about what the first pilgrims that walked what their daily life was like, you'd have to be pretty motivated to make such a journey. Life was so much different back then.
It's like 500 miles.
500.
Yeah.
And now we're just doing it for fun. It's crazy.
And that's what some people I've met along, this journey have done it, and they're like, it was the most spiritually enlightening thing that I've ever done. And I'm like, okay, well, are you like religious? And they're like, very much so. So as a Christian, this was like a bucket list for me. And I've also met other people that were like, this is like one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. And I was like, are you Christian? They're like, absolutely not. But just the camaraderie and the feeling of like, involvement and community that you experience along the way is unlike anything you'll ever experience. So, I'm not a super social person when traveling, obviously, but I think it'd be cool to kind of go and do this, because if I can learn how to like just turn everyone off and have moments to myself as I hike, but then to like interact when I choose to do so, it'll be, once again, like I find myself doing like these more of like these human experiments more than I ever really wanted to do before, like spending time with people that I usually wouldn't. I'm like, I just find people really interesting now, and like in a travel aspect, like on a day in, day out basis, like you're living in a city, people are just people, but when people are traveling, like it's a different version of themselves. It's a different kind of like existence, because they're away from everything they know. And so like it's the best version of themselves, or maybe the worst version,
Do you feel like you've become a different version of yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I've become a better version.
You seem more relaxed.
Yeah. I feel
than
more
you
relaxed.
did not last time I saw you, but just knowing you before you took this trip, you seem way more relaxed, not just physically, but mentally.
I feel that way too. Like I've just given in. I don't know if I've given up, but I've just given in. Like I just trust everything now. Like I don't
Like a yoga influencer on Instagram.
No, it's just like everything just seems to work out the way it's supposed to, you know? Maybe it's not the way you want it to, but everything just ends up working out.
It's like that old Chinese proverb, it's like good things lead to bad things lead to good things.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stories about that where things that originally seem like a blessing or a curse become the opposite.
Yeah.
In time. So trying to get away from that initial reactionary phase we all go through, like, I lost my job, fuck, I'm screwed. It's like, wow, if you just, okay, I lost my job, and then 3 months later you get a job you like even more.
Yep.
Well, actually, seems like losing your job was a good thing then, right?
Yeah.
So letting things play out a little more.
It's so funny too, because like moving around this much, like transportation's a huge thing. It's like, well, how am I going to get from here to there? Especially like when there's like not a train or a bus, you're like, I mean, this is going to be like a half a day of travel to get from this place to this place. And you're like, you start stressing about it like 2 weeks before it even supposed to happen. You're like, dude, you've been doing this now for so long. You're going to get there. It might not be in 2 hours. It might be in 3 hours, but you're going to get there. And like, what's waiting for you there that you can't be an hour late for, So just.
Or maybe by getting there an hour late, you'll arrive to something that wasn't there an hour before.
Exactly.
Just, it's all gravy.
It's all gravy.
You said you're not a social traveler. That surprises me. Because obviously you're putting yourself in some social situations outside of Japan, but I just always figure you as a social guy. Do you feel like that's part of your different persona on the road where you're more...
Yeah,
like you're not on Tinder trying to meet people?
No. I like being able
That's
to...
how a lot of people meet on the road now.
I know.
They just use Tinder or dating apps to like set up meetings.
Yeah, and then there's still like Meetup also in certain countries, like Meetup, yeah. I like to remove myself I want to be able to remove myself when I choose to do it. And so like being forced into like social interactions with people, like being on tours, the Africa one was very unique because there was no escaping. It's like you were setting up tents with each other, you were breaking down tents with each other, you spent every minute. I want to be able to go to my room at the end of a day and remove myself from people and close a door and not have to focus on any sort of interaction. And I find myself becoming more and more that way as I travel, where I like my own company. I like my own pace. If I'm starting to get really bored and lonely, I'll go on a food tour or a city tour. And so that's another thing I've done for myself is like every time I arrive into a new city, I'll just go on a food tour for like the first night. And that way, not only gives me a good layout of the city, but it gives me like a local's perspective. And then it kind of just opens up the door to like of the cuisines I want to explore further. Because you have some local guide like, oh, here are the things that you should be eating. So
great idea.
Yeah, it's such a good idea. Like, I always thought myself as being adventurous and going out to like markets and stuff and trying to figure stuff out. And it's like, dude, spend the $50 for like the 4-hour tour and have somebody show you all these little hidden gems and like the back streets and give you like the insight.
And then get them to write down all their personal favorite spots.
Oh, they always send you like a list afterwards.
Totally.
So you're like, okay, well now I know my way around here. And it just kind of like breaks the mold and it breaks the ice. It takes off the nervousness, You're like, oh, I'm in a new place. And it's like a completely different culture. And now after your tour, you're like, oh man, I know this place all so well now. I can do anything.
Having now spent the year on the road, year plus on the road, you said some of your trip was scheduled where you had hotels booked that you had to be at certain places at certain times. Other times it sounds like it was more flexible. For someone else thinking about doing this, what do you recommend? What do you think now, having experienced it?
Well, my only advice is that if you know you want to do something like this, plan a route. And start looking at flights and maybe around the dates that you want to like be in places, like in areas. Because you save a lot of money if you're doing big, long-term, like long-distance flights, if you book them further out, is what I've noticed. And same with accommodations. I've used nothing but booking.com this whole
Booking.com. Shout
Booking.com.
out.
Like,
Why'd you choose them?
because I have found the most amazing accommodations that I would have never found anywhere else. I'm like level 3 genius level now, you know? So I get these crazy discounts. So if anybody's thinking about doing this also, just, use a platform like that. I know a lot of people have had like bad luck with Booking, but I've had nothing but good luck with those guys. And I find these incredible accommodations for really good prices. And I'm like, how in the world would I have found this on my own? So my only advice is like to kind of think about the way you want to go and when you want to be there, and loosely plan and maybe make some commitments to like that route. Because if you give yourself too much freedom, then you kind of like start spinning out of control. Because I'm the type of traveler where I want to like move. I want to have a direction. I had some friends that I met that went into Bali and they loved it, which I wasn't the biggest fan of Bali. But then they like went into other parts of Indonesia and they were stuck there. I wouldn't say stuck, but they were there for like another month and a half, just hanging out in Indonesia, and they loved it. But then they couldn't make it to these other places because they spent so much time there. And they're like, man, we really wish we hadn't spent all that time in Indonesia, because it just became more of the same after a while.
Yeah, I guess if you find something you like, it's like a piece of candy. You're like, well, why am I going to leave? This is so great.
Exactly.
But the whole forgetting the intention of the original journey, which was to keep going.
To keep going.
I think people, when you think about traveling around the world, we have this old school romanticized vision of it where it's just like, get a plane ticket and just drop into the city, and I get off the train, I just walk to find a hotel. Like, okay, well, that worked when there was one hotel, right? And just everyone said, okay, there's a hotel. Like in our modern world, I think some planning is required.
Dude, it's hard work. I mean, there's so many nights I'm catching a flight at 2 o'clock in the morning, and then getting off a flight at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you're exhausted, and you have all you want to do is get off your flight at a gate. But no, you have to like get off, walk down to a bus.
Get on the bus.
And the bus got to take you.
Dude, all these little trials and tribulations.
Oh, my God.
They really build character, though.
They do.
Because when you're just over it, and then someone's like, nope, you got to get on the bus,
Yeah.
and then you got to take the tram, and then you got to walk. And it's just like, I just want to be there.
Yeah.
But those are the moments where you learn to overcome it.
You're like, oh, the airport's like right in the city. Like, no, the airport's like 70 miles away from your accommodation. Like, you have to now take 3 buses to get to this thing. It's going to take the next 3 hours of your life to get to this place. You're like, oh my God. And then, the craziest thing is I've been to those countries, but then you have like layovers. So, I was in Jeddah where I had a really, really horrible situation with this woman, the military woman, who pointed a gun in my chest.
Whoa.
Because she didn't understand what I was asking her, and she thought I was becoming aggressive, What
were you saying?
So I get off this flight in Jeddah, like at 2 o'clock in the morning, and there's no one at the gate. I mean, and that airport is massive. I mean, like you could walk for a day and like not get where you're going. So I'm like, oh, I don't know where I'm supposed to go, because like my flight got delayed. I'm going to Istanbul, but my flight's been delayed by like 8 hours. So are they going to put me up in a hotel, or what am I supposed to do? So I just start walking a direction, and then 30 minutes goes by, and I finally get to immigration. I'm like, I don't need to be immigrating into Saudi Arabia, into Jeddah right now. Like I went the wrong way. So this woman sees me, she's got this gun, and she's like, what do you need? And I was like, excuse me? She's like, what do you need? And I was like, well, my flight's been delayed, and I don't know where I'm supposed to go, because I think they're going to they're going to put me up for the night. She's like, what do you mean they're going to put you up for the night? And I was like, well, I think I'm getting a hotel because my flight was delayed for so long. So where do I go to like do this? And she's like, where do you go to do this? And I was like, yeah, like there's this whole interaction really weird. So finally she just got so pissed off. She just came with like pointed her gun in my chest. She's like, you're in the wrong area. Like you need to leave.
Whoa.
And I'm like, and she's covered.
Message delivered.
And I'm like, okay, like I'm turning around. So I walk 30 minutes back, and it's now like, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I see this guy like waving, and I'm like, what is he waving at? And he's like, and so finally I go up to him, and he's like, are you going to Istanbul? And I was like, yeah, but like my flight's been delayed. He's like, no, we're putting you on a new flight. I'm like, what? He's like, come on, like now. So he's like rushing all these people. I'm like, yeah, but my luggage is supposed to be going on this airline. He's like, don't worry, we'll get it transferred. Famous last
Never
words.
see that bag
Oh
again.
my God. So we get shoved onto this, Turkish Airlines flight. It's now 4:30 in the morning. The jet is packed, just packed.
It's a zoo.
It's a zoo. I haven't had any sleep. They're serving a full menu at 4:30 in the morning. The last thing I want to do is eat,
Ugh.
And the women, like the flight attendants, are just so pissed off, like they're just throwing stuff at you, like they're short. Everybody's yelling at them. I'm shoved in there. Get off at the airport. It's now like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. I am fried. Go to the luggage thing. I'm just waiting for my bag. And I'm like, oh, I'm so happy I'm back in Turkey. I love Turkey. And yeah, luggage. And then the little sign comes up. It's like, all luggage has been delivered. And I'm like, perfect. Just perfect. So I go and like make the claim. They're like, okay, we'll get it to you. So I just go and I, go into the city, and like, luckily I had like an extra pair of underwear. Another rule: always carry a bag with your toiletries, an extra set of underwear, extra socks. I learned that really quickly. So at least for a day or two, you have something clean to wear.
100%.
Did
you get the bag back?
Yeah, it was funny because they said by today by 4 o'clock, we're going to get it to you. And they gave me like their customer service number. So I went and took a nap. I woke up. Hey, any idea on the bag? Like, yes, sir, we'll get it to you. 3:30 rolls around. Hey, any idea on the bag? Sir, we said we'll get it to you. 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm calling again. And they knew the number somehow. They're like, sir, we said we get it to you.
He just like cocks a gun on the other end of the phone. He's like, sir, I told you.
It actually ended up coming a day late, which was fine because I had stuff. But, it's just.
What do you do?
What do you do?
I mean, I feel I've gained a lot of patience from traveling.
You have to.
Because you've just been through it all. When they come on that overhead and say, we were about to take off, but there's a maintenance delay, we're going back to the gate. Just like, yeah, totally.
Oh, the worst one I had was in Vietnam. I show up, and the flight's supposed to leave at noon. So I get there, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning. Get there, flight's supposed to leave at noon. We've been delayed for 3 hours. I'm like, oh, God, okay, 3 hours. It's fine. So finally, at 2:15, 2:30, they load us all up into like the buses again. And they decide to drive in the completely opposite direction of the jet we're boarding. And it's like there's no air conditioning on the bus, and people are just shoved in there. And they drive all the way to the opposite end of the airport, and then they find like, oh, we're going the wrong way. So they go all the way to the other end. We pull up, and now we're all like stuffed in this sweaty bus. And the guy gets out, and he's talking to like the mechanic, and like they're throwing their hands up in the air, and they're shaking their heads. And then they get back on the bus, and we drive back to the terminal. And I'm like, what is going on? So okay, everybody off. And we're like, what's happening? Like, oh, we still have mechanical issues. We're delayed until like 8 o'clock tonight.
Perfect. I'm sure it was interesting observing people around you that were on a tighter schedule. I mean, you were able to be calm a lot of it, I'm sure, because, yes, it's inconvenient, but you really have no place to be versus someone who's trying to.
Well, I think in a lot of countries, too, I think we take a lot of stuff for granted because we have, for some reason, the idea that we can complain and we can change things. The louder we scream, the more we complain, the more results we're going to get, which is just completely false. It seems like the more I've traveled, I've noticed people are just completely at peace with disruptions. There might be some businessmen or women that are like so angry about it, but for the most part, it seems like they're just used to things being delayed, things not running on time. So like nobody really seems to like get their feathers ruffled when they're like, oh, we're delayed by 7 hours. They're like, oh, okay.
Interesting.
That's cool.
Cultural difference.
Yeah.
I don't experience that in the States.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think it's being in the States because like I think if we just complain more, it's going to get us better results. And it's like really all you're doing is stressing yourself out, and you're stressing out the person you're yelling at, and you're making the situation just much worse than it needs to be.
Yeah. I kind of have the theory, and we don't have to talk about this, but that when you call a 1-800 number here in the States, if you're not an asshole, you'll get nowhere.
Yeah.
But I digress. I had a question about your itinerary because you were talking about the importance of planning. You went France, Switzerland, Italy, Slovenia, Germany, Poland, Denmark, Portugal, Spain. Then you left Europe. You went to Tunisia, Morocco. Then you went to Ireland.
Yeah, because I had
And then back to Senegal. So why did you do Ireland that way? It seems random.
I had to basically take up 3 weeks of time as I got some personal stuff sorted out.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So that was unplanned.
That was unplanned because I was supposed to be in Senegal longer than I was initially. And so I was like, well, with what's going on, I should just probably go someplace that I can not have to focus so much on such crazy, extreme cultural differences and just go to Ireland. So I went there for 3 weeks, rented a car, drove the southern part of the island, drank my body weight in Guinnesses. And
is it really better than Ireland?
I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty damn good. I mean, you find yourself kind of craving it. You're like, ooh, that creaminess. I really want it. But I mean, I gained probably 10 pounds in 3 weeks there just because everything's so rich. Like there's nothing really healthy, at least what I found when I was there. And it's just kind of like a lot of the same menu items on repeat. It's like you get some lamb, you get some beef, lots of fish.
Comfort foods.
Yeah, everything's just kind of mushy and fried and then
was that the most weight you gained in a country, you would think?
Ireland, yeah, I think so.
And then was Africa, or I guess Asia, you probably lost some weight.
I lost a lot of weight in Africa, and then India also. Like I was in India for I think 2.5, 3 months, and I didn't drink the entire time there.
You didn't drink the entire time?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Like India, for some reason, was just one of those places where I was like so just like in awe and like fascinated by everything. I really didn't want to like lose the feeling or the focus. Like I didn't want to like numb anything. I wanted to feel all of it. I really wanted to lean into that place.
It's not really a drinking culture too, is it?
I mean, there's some drinking. I mean, I was with some people that would drink every night, but yeah, I was just like, no, I want to feel it the way it is,
I'm glad you brought that up because I bookmarked some stuff about India I wanted to ask you about. You went to the Taj Mahal.
I did.
Okay, so your pictures are absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
I've always been a little hands-off with the Taj Mahal because every time I meet someone that's been there, just tells me how crowded it is, etc. And personally, for me, that's like a horrible environment for me. Like I have a hard time appreciating, like, for example, I've never been to the Louvre in Paris because I just know that the whole crowd there will just affect me, and that's something I need to work on. But you seem to have loved it. One of the most captivating and magnificent pieces of artwork that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
You see it for the first time, you don't believe you're seeing it. It doesn't seem like it's real. It sits there, it's massive, it's grand, it looks like it's digitally created, and it's glistening, and the way the sun hits it at different parts of the day, the shadows, the colors, it's indescribable. Like you can't really, I don't know, you can't describe how to feel and how it looks until like you're standing next to that thing and you're like, this is amazing. Getting inside is like nothing at all special. It's like basically just a, marble slabs. It's like a tomb essentially, which built on top of like the actual tomb that's down below.
So it's not a palace.
No.
It's a mosque.
Yeah.
It seems like.
Well, it's like
a tomb.
A tomb, yeah.
Tomb is the centerpiece of a 42-acre complex,
Yep.
including a mosque and guest house.
So like I find like the buildings off to the side more interesting on the inside than the actual Taj Mahal itself. The Taj Mahal from the outside is just incredible. But you saying like you don't like crowds, well, welcome to India.
Yeah, totally. I went to Delhi. It was a lot.
Yeah, it's like you kind of have to just kind of you have to just float.
But you have to be kind of aggressive, right? Or you get pushed around.
Yeah, but at the same time, like you're just kind of in that mindset where you're just, you find yourself being a little pushy, but at the same time, like you just let the energy in the crowd take you where you need to be. And a lot of times it just works out well. And then plus you feel like a superstar there because everybody wants to take a picture with you.
Oh.
You have families lining up to take pictures with you. You're like, oh my God, you have blue eyes, white skin, no hair, a beard.
What an interesting creature this guy is.
Yeah. Well, it's like you have like a whole family wants to take a picture with you, and then each family member wants to take a picture with you. And then there's like other families and other people lining up after them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, dude, I should charge like 100 rupees per photo.
Totally. Yeah, you might have. Well, so what impressed you about it was like from the outside, like it just looks like that white. Like inside it's all
Well,
tiled and stuff.
like on the grounds inside, like if you actually go inside the Taj Mahal, it's really not that impressive to me. Just around the outside, though, it's just incredible. Like you have the reflection pools. Like I said, like the way the light hits it at certain parts of the day. You have the towers, and it's just massive. Like you stand next to it, and you're like, I can't believe how big this thing is.
It was built 372 years ago.
Yeah, it's not that old.
Wow. I mean, it's not that old compared to ruins in Rome, for example, but 372 years. I mean, that just kind of sticks out as being kind of old.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it wasn't it was not modern history, but it looks like it's in such good shape.
It is. It's incredible. I mean, and I think that it was also built to impress. I mean, a lot of things were back in the day were built to impress women, but I think it's one of those things that also was like, let me show you just how great I can make something, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think we all do that in our own way, maybe. Guess how many people visit the Taj Mahal
Each year?
in 1 year, more or less.
I'd say 40 million.
Okay, no.
Not that many?
4.8 million.
Okay,
approximately.
It seems like it would be like
but 40 million. This is why I don't want to go, because what you just said. It seems like 40 million people are there. It's like, yeah, it's a lot. It's crazy. One other India thing I wanted to ask you about your time in Varanasi.
Oh, man.
So, the holy city of India, quote, where one can put an end to the karmic life and death cycle and finally find nirvana. I lost everything that I thought I knew about myself here and became witness to some of the most moving scenes and images that have ever crossed my eyes. Sorry, that's messed up, but sounds like you had quite a moving experience. What is Varanasi? I've never...
So Varanasi is in Uttar Pradesh. It's like one of the most, if not most, sacred and holy city for a lot of Indians. And basically it's where the Ganga is, the Ganges River. And they go there to pray and to bathe themselves and remove themselves. And then a lot of people will actually bring people that are basically in hospice or that kind of style of medical care to die in Varanasi, and they can be burned there.
That's where they burn the bodies on the river?
Where they burn the bodies on the river.
Oh, my God.
And it's constant, all day long. Like you'll be sitting here eating something, and this procession of people will come through the street carrying a body, like just completely adorned in like beautiful jewels and robes and stuff like that. And like their feet are painted. Everything is like painted. And they bring them there and they basically, kind of put them in the river and clean them. And then they remove all their robes and stuff. And then they put them on the pyres and they light them. And they cremate them right there. And you're watching it. And it's 24/7. Bodies being burned.
Okay, a lot of questions. So when they wash them in the river, how old are these corpses?
Well, like the corpses are pretty freshly, deceased. So you'll get there and like the family will be waiting for them. They'll bring them down to the river and they'll just kind of like, rinse them with the water. And then once again, like they'll give all like the valuables to like the family. And then they have certain things, but then that they keep them dressed in. But then they'll put them on the pyre and then they'll just kind of build stuff up around them. And then they'll light it and the body will burn. And it takes like 3 or 4 hours for a body to burn.
4 hours?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
You're literally standing there, like, did you watch a body melt and
I've seen bodies being like lit. I've seen bodies halfway through. I've seen fires going out. But yeah, I've seen corpses like freshly ignited.
What's that feel like?
It's just, I don't know, man. Like, how do you?
I don't know.
Yeah,
that's why I'm asking you.
It's insane. Like, it's like something you don't witness, and you detach yourself from it. You're like, that was once a living, breathing person that it still looks like a living, breathing person right here, and I'm watching their body go up in flames. It's just this, I don't know, this intense feeling of, it makes you realize just how temporary everything is in this world. And we start with that and we go to that,
What's the smell like?
Varanasi is so polluted. I had like this this weird chest cold for probably 2 months after I left India.
I bet.
It doesn't really smell just because, I mean, it's just such a polluted place. I mean, the river, like you stick your, you can go out and you can do like a little float and you can release candles onto the river, and you touch the water and it's hot. The water's like so warm. Whereas I went up to Rishikesh, the base of the Himalayas, and the Ganga is coming down from the Himalayas there. And it's blue and it's cold and it's clean. And I bathed in it a couple times because I went and did I went to an ashram and I did like an 8-day meditation and yoga retreat in Rishikesh. So that was like the way I ended India, and seeing the Ganges or the Ganga up there in the north compared to it in Varanasi, worlds apart. But once again, it's like one of the most visited places in the world for Indians as a sacred and ceremonial and a kind of a pilgrim like place for them to go to and just clean themselves to become kind of pure.
And you felt like you did the same there?
I did, because I was so surrounded by it, and they have the arti, which is like the puja. It's like their celebration every night. So it's kind of like a mass away for Christians, like a ceremony. And it's just people gather and they watch, the 7 priests, or sometimes there's 5, and they come out and they'll clean the air with like the incense, and then they'll go through and they'll do like the fire cleansing, and like they'll throw flower petals up in the air. And I have the photos on my Instagram, and it's like one of the most beautiful. And
is that it? That one?
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah. And so my whole entire time in India, I was going to pujas, or like these little ceremonies, and I was taking part of them, and it was really cool because like they welcome you in. They see like you're a Westerner, and like you don't really know what's happening, but you're making the attempt to like see something different. And finally in Varanasi, I got to see this, and the way it worked out once again was perfect. I met this guy, he was like, "Hey, can I show you around?" And I was like, "Okay, like how much?" He's like, like, I don't know, 200 rupees or something. It was pretty inexpensive. So he took me around into like the ghats, like, the steps and stuff. And we went and saw some like food things. And then he brought me down to see this. It's like the bodies burning. And I was like, from me to you, like watching bodies burn,
And the families don't care that some rando is there?
No, because I think I'm not being disrespectful. Like I'm trying to understand what's happening, You're
not taking photos?
No.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Let's go and see the arti, the puja." And I was like, "Okay." So we go, and there's probably like 1,000 people sitting down to see this ceremony. And the dude walks up and gives me a chair, and I'm sitting like front row, unobstructed view, to see this whole ceremony. And it seems like only like the really well-off people of Varanasi or of India got these seats. And for some reason, I met the guy who had the ability to give me this front row seat to watch this ceremony. And I'm like looking around, I'm just like watching all these people shoved in next to each other to be here and to witness this and be part of it. But they're on the ground, and like, just they seem to be kind of used to it. I was like, man, if I was in there right now, I'd be hating life. I'd be so uncomfortable. I can't sit Indian style as it is, and these guys are just sitting there for an hour just waiting for this to begin. And I watched this just unfold in front of me, and I was like, this is insane. Like it all came down to this, and that was my time in northern India. And then, after that I went down to southern India, like Kerala and Tamil Nadu, which was completely worlds apart from northern India. I mean, cleaner, more organized.
Southern India is more organized than northern India.
It's like India light, it's like much easier. And like it's like more people are more liberal and free thinking. I think they're more highly educated. There's more college down there, and just further advancements in business as well. Whereas like up north, it's much more conservative and old school. And then after that, I went into Sri Lanka, and I was like, oh, I didn't put Sri Lanka on my list.
Oh yeah, you just said that, and I was like, was that on the list?
So that's another one right after India. Sri
You're
Lanka.
even forgetting places you've been, you bastard. God, Sri Lanka, I hear, is just stunning.
It was incredible.
Biodiversity there.
Yeah, but my problem with it is going from India into Sri Lanka was just kind of more of the same.
Oh, So we feel bad for you, Joe. Yeah. Why was it more the same? I thought, well, I guess India has a lot of jungle and such, right? But,
Yeah, it was just kind of like similar cuisines, similar culture, like religious, Yeah, but I made it all the way south to like Marissa and Gaul and those areas, and the beaches were incredible. But being like in, you know, Colombo and Nagamo and Ella and Kandy and all those areas were just really, really, really pretty. But I just feel like I could have, like, it's like doing Tunisia and Morocco. It's kind of similar. Like for me, India and Sri Lanka were kind of similar.
had you been to Asia before?
Only with the military.
To where?
Japan, Philippines. That was it.
Sorry, I don't know where my pen went. Here it is. God. Because you went from India, well, Sri Lanka, it sounds like, to Asia, and then Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Japan, Cambodia, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. You did not go to Brunei. Come on.
No.
You don't want to do Sharia law? Come on. What was your overall impressions of Asia, of your Asia component?
I loved it. I feel so at home there. Like, I was getting really, really sad about the idea of having to leave Asia. It's like they're living in the future, even in like the poorest of places. It seems like they're just so happy and everything just works so well and people are just at ease and at peace with everything and the food and the sounds and yeah, I don't know. I just really, really fell in love with like the whole Asian thing.
Wait, well, you said they're living in the future.
Like a lot, like, and like a lot of the cities like in Seoul and, parts of Thailand and then Vietnam, it just seems like, in Tokyo and, all the other parts of Japan, like the public transportation is incredible. Like they build like these malls that are like from space, like 20-foot or 20-floor malls, 20-floor malls that have, the best shopping in these incredible like digital cafes. And it's just like everything that you could ever imagine is at your fingertips. Like you don't have to really go searching for anything. You're like, oh, I need this. Oh, there's a store right there for it. It's like, oh, I need that. Well, go down there. It's like waiting for you. It's like, oh, I come to the United States and like I need something. It's like, well, it's a 2-week wait for that. Like you have to order it online. Like,
Probably because it comes from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the electronics or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's like I'm in the market for a new phone right now, right? And so I try to go buy one today, and they're like, just get a new battery. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll just get a new battery and save all this money on a new phone. I tried to order a battery today. The guy's like, oh, it's a 2-week wait. I have to order it, and it still has to come. And I can't order until Monday. And I'm like, if I was anywhere in Asia right now, I could go buy like a really cheap battery on this phone, and it could be done in like an hour or less.
I remember the mall culture there being so confusing. I first went to Asia in 2014. I went to Malaysia, and I was in Kuching on the island of Borneo, and I still am a big hiker, and Borneo is just a natural paradise. So I was asking people, hey, like, what do you guys do for fun? Do you hike? Da 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 da. And all the people that live there, are like, oh, we like to go hang out at wherever. They would say a name. I'm like, oh, is that like a natural area or trail? Like, no, that's the mall.
Yeah.
I'm like, why do you like it there? Well, it's really air conditioned.
Yeah.
It's really nice. People just love to go to the mall there. Okay, well, I think I'll skip that. But yeah, it's kind of funny. That resonates with me.
Yeah, it's like the mall and then like night markets. That's
Yeah.
the pulse of any city. You go find the night market. You try some of the best food ever in your life for like pennies, and everybody's there. And like you're seeing just what it's all about, and
When I'm in Asia, my thing I do to treat myself is I get at least 2 hours of massage a day.
Yeah.
Because it's so cheap.
So cheap.
You can get a really cheap massage for $6 to $10 an hour, or you can splurge for $30 an hour for like a nice spa. And I don't know how you feel about massages, but to me, first hour you're just getting warmed up. So
Yeah.
I love 2-hour massages. It's just so good for your body.
That's all I do is 2-hour massages. And then when I was in Taiwan, my last 3 days, I got, 3 2-hour massages my last 3 days. I had this woman, it was like a Chinese acupressure massage, and she like put the hurt on me. The next day I was like, I'm bored. I'm going to get another massage. So I went, and it was like this other woman who was like not at all good at it. So I was so upset because I didn't get the same quality of massage. So I went back the next day and got the woman from the first day and was like, I need one more before I leave.
Totally.
You
You
know?
find that good masseuse. You got to stick with it. Someone that touches you that way.
Yeah, and it's cheap.
Yeah, it's why not? And it's kind of a break from the heat. They're air conditioned usually. And it's just, that time to relax.
Yep.
I mean, I completely agree. A couple questions about logistics for your next trip, and I think we're running out of time. So I'll close with some of these questions. First off, where are you going next? So you have a week here.
A week here.
Now, it's kind of like a break in the trip, but not really. It's almost just like you're including the U.S. in this travel around the world thing.
Yep.
So you're here 1 week, and then you go to Europe to do the hiking trail. Sounds like that'll be a month or two. Then what are you going to do?
So I'm wide open until September. I'm going to go to Jordan and Egypt. And then from there, I'll go into Oman and Abu Dhabi. And then the plan from that is to work my way finally into South America.
Okay, so how long do you think you'll be on the road this next time?
Maybe I'll wrap up by January, February.
And by wrap up, you mean you want to plan to come off the road, or you'll just maybe come back for a week again? Who knows?
Maybe by January, February, I'll see the stuff that I want to see this time around, and then I'll give myself some time to make a decision if I want to settle for a little bit and just do, less travel, more,
Well, I think it's important to just do things like you hit it. It's like if there's things you want to do, go do them.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've met people that sort of get in this position where they're traveling just to travel.
Right.
And they're not really excited about anything anymore. There's not something they want to do or see or learn about, but they don't want to go home. So they just stay on the road.
Yeah. I'm kind of at that point. I don't really want to come home, but I also want to keep seeing stuff. But at the same time, like, I find myself landing in certain places now, and I'm like, oh, just another city.
Yeah.
And I hate that aspect that when I start feeling that way. I'm like, okay, like the excitement's kind of like waning. So that's when I'm like, oh, I just need to go to a different part of the world then, because I'm getting used to like this kind of stuff right now. So I would like to go do the 5 stands. So like Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, whatever. Kazakhstan, yeah. Uzbekistan.
Afghanistan.
I'd like to do Pakistan.
Pakistan.
Yeah.
Cool.
And there was like this cool group that I found. I think it was called Mondragon or something like that. It's like a 44-day kind of like road exploration where like you go camp but you also go into the cities. So it's like a mix of like cooking for yourself and camping, but then also getting hotels and stuff like that. And so to me, once again, that seems like a logical thing to do with trying to do so many crossings. And I know like you need guides and certain things if you go into like Uzbekistan maybe. So yeah, I'll explore that. I'd like to go to China and start exploring that. Like I've never been to China.
Yeah, I noticed China was not on the list.
Well, I think it's always one of those things like logistically it's a nightmare getting like a long-term visa, but they offer the 10-day visa-free travel now, like 240 hours for American citizens. You can go in and out of China. But you always you have to have like a third country. So you have to start somewhere, go into China, and then leave. Like you can't just do like a round trip.
To have a return ticket somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like you have to like go to a different place from China.
Oh, okay.
I can't fly in and out from say Hong Kong. So, but yeah, I feel like China deserves.
When I went, I think I have a 10-year visa still.
Yeah.
Do they don't do that anymore?
They do, but I have to be in the States, I think.
You got to send off.
That.
I had to send away my passport.
Yeah.
Okay.
Due to a consulate and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. Where did you get the tattoo, the traditional tattoo?
So this one, I actually ended up meeting this guy in Thailand. And he was telling me about this really famous temple outside of Bangkok, where they once a year or twice a year they do like this huge like tattoo ceremony with all these monks where people line up and they get their sakyants done. And it's like you just show up, and when they have time, they do it. So he's like, well, do you want to go see this temple? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So he brought me out there. We're just wandering around. And one of the monks was there that day. And he kind of started talking to the monk, telling him I was a traveler and stuff like that. And the monk's like, well, does he want to, get a tattoo?
That's like, such a random question. Just like,
well, so he's like, if he wants protection, like these are the ones that I would suggest. So I did the two, like the one on the top of my neck and then the one in the center. those are the first ones that he did like that day. And he's like, these will for protection. And then I was so addicted to it. I called the guy up the next day and I was like, can I get 2 more? He's like, you want 2 more? And I
But
was like,
they're traditional tattoos, both in the artistry, but also in how they do it, right?
how they do it.
Tell us about that.
So it's like the tap method. And so what they'll do is they have like this old school ink and they kind of stick this really long, kind of like tattoo gun into the ink. You know, the monk is kind of sitting behind you, and and you're sitting just bent over in front of him, and he just kind of dips the pen into the ink, and then just sticks it into your back and taps it really lightly
with his finger. He taps it.
He taps like the tattoo, like I guess it's not really a gun. It's like a wand, with like the needle at the end. It's about 24 inches long.
Wow.
And he's sitting here like this, and he dips, sticks it in your back, and then taps. And it feels like he's ripping your skin off because, I mean, it's a big needle. And
did it hurt?
Hell yeah.
More than, I mean, you
More
have a lot
these?
of tattoos.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was like, okay, I need to like really go to like my quiet place right now and focus on this because, I mean, it feels like this guy pulled out the most blunt needle he could to put into my skin.
Meanwhile, you're in the middle of nowhere, so you're like, maybe he did pull out the.
And then I didn't realize that each time I went, there was like another guy there with me. But when I was done, they were using the same ink to tattoo another person.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, I'm happy I wasn't the second person.
Same needle too.
No, different needles. They
would
would
just stick into the same ink.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
So.
Wow.
So yeah, all in all, I think I ended up with 1, 2, what was it? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 new tattoos on the road. 12. Yeah.
How many did you have before?
2.
2. You went from 2 to 13.
3. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did they all still mean something to you?
Yeah, they all. The first one I got was here, the Ganesha. As soon as I landed in India, I've always loved the Ganesha. Just what it means.
What does it mean?
It's like the removal of obstacles. Like anything is possible. There's a whole story about Ganesha also, but basically, it's like the saint of removing obstacles, making things happen. So I got that, and then I was really focusing on the chakras. And, a lot of stuff comes from India. So the study of yoga, chakra, stuff like that came from India. So I thought this was really cool, too, just to kind of remind myself. And it has kind of a meaning because, like, the ground chakra, the red one, and everything else right here, it's kind of grounded. But then I get up to the heart, and everything kind of becomes discombobulated. And then when I get to the head, it gets really advanced and, like, busy. So I feel like it just all makes sense to me. We're grounded, busy up here, but when I get to the heart and the throat, things become a little loose and fall apart a little bit.
I love that. That's cool.
And then once I got done with India, all the colors and like the steps, like because you'd go like to these wells and stuff, and they had like these really geometrical kind of like steps, like the step wells and stuff. This reminded me of those, and then just the colors and the patterns that I saw all throughout India is why I got this kind of mandala. This I got in Japan because the colors and just once again it's very intricate and just simple, and it's just kind of how I was feeling in Japan, like blue, kind of messy.
That was your quiet phase.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Of course, the barong from Bali because he looks like he's really scary, but he's basically a really good sign of luck and being fearless. I got the octopus in Hong Kong because of adaptability, the ability to change and kind of fit into any situation, being fluid, plus just kind of being intelligent.
Chameleon, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, so you did kind of go to China. Oh, that's on the list. Hong Kong
Yeah.
is on the list. Okay, you didn't go to mainland China.
No.
All right.
And then, this tiger here is the newest one from Taiwan. And basically, I liked it because I wanted a tiger because of what it means. It's like ferocity, independence, stuff like that. But also, it's from their Formosa flag. So when Taiwan first gained independence, they had this as their flag. It's known as the Formosa tiger. It was very short-lived, but it's a really good sign of like Taiwanese like independence. And I just like how old school it looks, and like most people get tiger tattoos and like it's on the prowl. It's like about to rip your face off, and this one's got buck teeth and it's kind of goofy, you know. So, but it's like old school. It just reminds me like of an Asian tattoo, you know. So, yeah.
Crazy cool, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So what would you, now having done this whole trip, you're planning the new one, what are you going to do differently this time?
I'm not going to be so planned out. Like, I'm going to give myself just kind of more room to wiggle. I feel like when I initially started the first trip, I felt like I had to cover a lot of ground. Now I feel like if I'm going to find a place or a person or something that I can slow down with, I'm going to allow myself to do it, you know, and I'll allow myself to maybe move backwards a little bit, to take another look at something, you know, to kind of loop back around and experience something again. Whereas I've been so driven to be like, I'm not going in reverse at all on this trip. I'm moving in this direction, and nothing will slow me down from moving in this direction. And now I feel like I should give myself the chance to be like, you know what? I had a really good time in that city. I should maybe go back for a couple nights and try it out again. So,
yeah. Or if you connect with someone or someplace, hang around, see what happens. Okay. Yeah. That's a good change. Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention sort of the elephant in the room, people listening. Probably a big part of a big hurdle for most people is just the finances of this, being able to just go and spend. How do you manage finances, and do you have any advice for people in terms of, I mean, it's one thing to slum it for a week or two, but at some point I think you got to treat yourself to keep your energy high and to make sure you're getting proper rest. So how do you manage all that economically when you're going about this?
So obviously I sold the house, and that was like a nice return on investment.
Yeah, you don't have to talk about your personal situation necessarily. I'm just curious, like, if you have advice for how people to manage their finances, or if other people you've met, there's just tips like that.
One thing I noticed is like a lot of people always want to like stay at Airbnb so they can cook for themselves and stuff like that. What I've noticed is it's cheaper, it's like in places like Asia, to actually eat out than to go to a grocery store and buy all the ingredients. So find like a neighborhood where you're comfortable in, and then find like a local mom and pop place. Save money on simple things that you would spend a lot of money on, like don't be too good to drink instant coffee if that's all that's available. You know, have yourself, every room has a kettle in it, and every room generally refills their tea and their coffee every day. Take advantage of that. And then when you leave, take the coffee with you, so that way you always have some stuff on the road. Allow yourself, like once a week or once a month or whatever you're comfortable with financially, to go and actually have a nice dinner. But, you know, treat yourself like you would when you're in the States. Eat moderately. Don't overdo it. You don't need to have 3 big meals a day. You know, you can snack throughout the day, and you can do it for really cheap. Grab some fruits, grab some vegetables, snack on those throughout the day. You know, I think it just depends on the person, what they're comfortable with.
That's great advice about Asia, because it is, you know, cheaper to eat out there. I'm sure Europe, it's kind of the opposite. You'd want to maybe go for Airbnbs over hotels so you could have that cooking component.
Yeah. But, you know, in Europe also, like, you can do it pretty cheap. You can go grab some meats and cheeses, but, you know, you get tired of that also, like eating baguette and sliced meats every day. And then,
well, yeah, I mean, it's like for a week it's one thing, but yeah, for months. And you want a good nutrition.
Yeah.
I know for me, when I'm traveling, eating out is great. When I get home, I just cannot wait to have chicken and potatoes, like in the oven, with some carrots, maybe a little salad. It's just the simplest baseline that just resets my system.
Yeah, my flight back here from Beijing, you know, they give you the menu, because I actually treated myself. I was like, hey, it's the end of this part of the trip. I'm going to fly business class. And I've never flown business class. And I was like, man, I did it right, because it was like on Air Canada. It was like the full lay flat beds, like just, you know, pimped out. And they bring me the menu of all these like really nice things, you know, but it's kind of Asian based. And I look, and there's like roasted chicken thigh with mashed potatoes and green beans. And they're like, what would you like, sir? And I was like, the chicken thigh.
Totally.
I need some mashed potatoes.
Totally, man. I get that. Well, what a journey you've been on. It's really inspiring. I think hopefully different parts of the story can be inspiring for different people. I know that most of us can't just like pick up and travel the world, but just hearing your stories just is very motivating to shake things up, or, you know, make that big decision, whatever that is. Just take that chance and go.
Take the chance. That's it. I mean, we only have one go around in this life that we remember, right? I mean, and I would much rather just take the chance now and not look back later in life and be like, man, what would it have been like if I took that chance? And I don't want to have any regrets later, you know.
And it's not just all fun. You know, people look at it as like, well, I wish I could just, you know, play all day or whatever. But I can tell you're a different person now. The education that you've received over this past 16 months has no doubt been far and above anything you've received in the rest of your life. I mean, just all the wisdom and knowledge that you've soaked up about these places, the histories, our planet, the people here. I mean, it's just incredible. So I'm sad we only have you back for a week, but thanks for spending a little bit of your time with me.
Of course.
And hopefully I'll catch you this weekend for a drinky drink.
I look forward to it.
Sounds good, buddy. Well, safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the episode. If you enjoyed it, you may enjoy our previous episode, episode 10, which focuses on Brazil and a remote region known as the Pantanal, where you can go on an African-esque safari looking for wild jaguars. You won't want to miss that one. It's a sit-down interview with a local guide there who walks us through the history of the region and what you can experience there today. For our next episode, you may enjoy, we are going to do something a little bit different. Up until now, we focused on having a guest every episode. Episode 12 is just going to be me and you. I have a lot to say on a couple news issues that's been coming out, including some big changes with Southwest Airlines. Also, I have some recent trips to tell you about, including a short 4-day venture down to Belize. Stay tuned for that. Until next time, you can find me online at Wake and Wander Will.
Yes, now I'm riding the terrain, flying high up once again. Got my crew sitting healthy and my boo living wealthy. Level 99, never settle in my mind. So I pedal and I climb up the pedestal and find almighty weapon. So I calm, lightly step into the castle. Satchel, tackled, wrestled down the corridor where I'm grounded through the floor. Roundhouse into my core, down, out, and through the door. Sword down at my side, I gotta round up and ride. Face boss, break jaws till I take off. Face off, stop and swing my serious strike. This is it, take the title, disappear in the night. To the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm hit the whole wide world. Slay the boss in the castle when we cross final battle. Then I walk out, travel to the whole wide world. Got the keys to the kingdom overseas with the wisdom guarantee that my rhythm